Hello, this is OverLordBou, and we're back with SAT score, and today we'll be looking at the basics to grinding lines in World of Warships. So, a lot of new players may have trouble figuring out how to grind down lines, when the roadblock would be on the lines, or when is the best time to use camos. Use the camos and flags that you stocked up over your time of playing. And today we're going to have all your answers questioned on that. So, SAT score, what would you like to start us off on today?
Alright, so I'll assume that a new player will start at the low tier, so probably about tier 2 or tier 3. So, tier 2 to tier 5 ships, they tend to grind out pretty quickly, so I wouldn't recommend using too much resources. Like, if you have a limited amount of camos and flags, I would recommend holding off on that. It also helps that tier 1 to 5 ships often will see bots, so it's fairly easy to grind your EXP by just killing bots and randoms. This doubles as a good opportunity to kind of learn how the ship works, how your controls work, and aiming your guns. Because those skills, it's better to build them up now against bots rather than getting slapped in the face by human players when you get to the higher tiers. So, a new player will have newbie matchmaking protection. What I'm saying is that for the first, I believe 200 games, you can only be matched with other new players and bots. So, this protection is lost once you get past the 200 battles mark, or if you play a tier 5 ship or above. So, use this time to kind of gain experience while you're only facing off against bots and other new players. Because when you get to tier 5, that is one of the first walls you will hit. So when you get to tier 5, that is when matchmaking changes. Compared to the previous +1, -1 protected matchmaking, tier 5s can see +2 tiers of ships. So, for example, your tier 5 Königsberg can face off against a tier 7 battleship. And you don't want that tier 7 Leon to one-shot your Königsberg every single game. That is not fun. So, yeah. It's not uncommon to get up-tiered into tier 7 matches. You're facing players that are generally more experienced. There's a lot of premium ships around the tier 6 to tier 8 areas, so you may see a veteran players just grinding out credits in those ships. And worst of all, you probably don't have a 10-point captain at this point. So, in other words, there's a lot of disadvantages stacked against you. So, unfortunately, there isn't that much you can do in tier 5 other than just try to grind it as quickly as you can. Some ships are better off than others, like if you're in a battleship, you still have that health and guns to do damage, so you can get lucky against cruisers and kill them that way. Destroyers, you may have to get lucky with torpedoes, but tier 5 destroyers have a useful concealment, so unless you're facing kamikazes, you should stand a decent chance. And of course, cruisers, if you really don't like the grind, you can try to put on some flags and grind through it quicker. When you get to tier 6, the main problem you'll probably face is not with ship capabilities, but more with your captain. When I was grinding out New Line on an alternate account, I was finding out my captain was stuck at around 6 to 8 points in terms of skills. And the difference between a 9-point captain and a 10-point captain is insane because you don't have that 4-point skill. So we take a look into the skill tree. Take a look at Concealment Expert. This is for cruisers, obviously, but for battleships will take Fire Prevention, cruisers and destroyers will typically take Concealment Expert. This is invaluable for destroyers, as concealment is often a huge often dictates how you're able to engage. So if two destroyers have like 1 kilometer of concealment apart, then of course the destroyer with a lower concealment will easily have the advantage. As a tier 6 destroyer, you can and probably will end up in tier 8 matches. Tier 8 matches, of course, is heavily populated with premiums, as it's the most popular tier for premium ships. And you're going to run into a lot of good tier 8 premiums. So as a tier 6 ship, not having a 10-point captain is going to be extremely painful. If you don't like to be up-tiered, one way to get around it is to play operations. Operations will give you a lot of EXP, and on top of that can help train your captain. I would recommend this for tier 6 ships just because you don't have to worry about being up tiered, you're fighting against bots, and you get to play fairly interesting co-op games with other players. So there's several different operations depending on which week it is. For example, this week is Killer Whale. There are 4 co-op missions that you can participate in with tier 6 ships, and getting 4 or 5 stars in each of these operations will reward you with a 10-point commander and 24 hours of premium time respectively. So another incentive to grind out ships using operations.
Yeah, the Nare is the only one that's tier 7, the rest of them are tier 6s. So Killer Whale, Raptor Rescue, Defensive Naval, and August are all great for grinding tier 6s. While the Nare is also great for grinding tier 7s, with getting credits, free XP, and commander XP.
When I was playing through them, I found that except for Defense of Newport, my EXP gains was relatively the same compared to randoms. So if you know how to play the scenarios, you can avoid a relatively painful grind. When you get to tier 7, you'll probably hopefully have a 10-point commander by then, with a 4-point skill. If not, then you probably want to go back to tier 6 and play in operations and get captain trained that way. You really don't want to advance past this tier without a 10-point captain, because as I said, not having concealment expert on the destroyer, or not having on a cruiser, or not even having fire prevention on a battleship is drastically going to change your effectiveness in higher tier matches. When I was talking about tier 6 to 8 matches, I also mentioned that premium ships are pretty common around this time. And because of that, if you're still very interested in playing World of Warships and would like to spend money on a few premium ships to help you grind credits, then this is about the time where I would recommend looking into getting a new premium ship. And I believe we have published a video a while back specifically recommending premium ships for newer players. So if you go back to the Bou's previous videos, you should be able to find it.
Yeah, it's still there. You should be able to find the informative section. It's still there.
Do you want to talk about tier 7 and tier 8 ships, how well they fare for a new player?
So usually for tier 7 and tier 8 is where you start experiencing a lot of the more you start getting like the normal players usually, or some of the more experienced. So usually it's the more normal. And the tier 7s are likely to get up tier to tier 9. So in this tier, you're more likely wanting to be a little bit more passive during this tier. So like if you have like a tier 7 DD and there's a tier 9 DD that's there, you're gonna have to be a little bit more passive, because if you just go up in that cap, you're gonna get walloped by the tier 9. So you have to try to use your advantage of being a lower tier with having a better concealment than the higher tiers to give you that little extra advantage. That's why it's important you have a 10-point captain by tier 7 and 8. But you want to have a tier 10, a 10-point captain by tier 7 at least as the latest, because having a concealment for your DDs, cruisers, and then for your battleships, you want fire prevention is super important, because at tier 7 and 8 is when the HE throwing gets really intense, and that's when you really need to have you need to be able to stay dark and use that to your advantage, or you're gonna get walloped really early. Also, tier 7 and 8 is when you want to start using your economic flags since you've been saving them up ever since you've been lower, because the 7 and 8 is when the grind starts to get really difficult, with the credits and the XP being a higher amount. So usually you want to start using your Zulu, your India Bravo to reduce the cost prevention. Zulu's for the plus 20% credit bonus. The equal speed Charlie London is for the plus 50% XP per battle. Very nice for grinding lines. This one's for the extra commander, Zulu Hotel. Very nice to help you with your commander grind as well. And the Papa is also great for your free XP. This is plus 300% free XP. I would recommend you start using these on the lines and commanders that you are trying to grind around this time. Since the higher tier you go, the more money you'll make per match and the more XP you'll earn. These combat flags up here, they're also important to use, but in randoms at this level, it's not really worth to use these because these will get very, very expensive. Like if we go into the armory here, I can just show you how much they are. This is the main reason why I tell people not to start using these flags when you start playing the game. As you can see, a pack of 20 costs for these 3.8 million, 2.8, 2.4, 2.4. Like these flags are very expensive and they're very helpful in what they give you, but at the same time, they're very expensive and it's not very helpful for you. If you're trying to buy these when, say, you want to buy 80, it's 9.6 mil. But since I have a billion credits, I can do this just fine because I grind lines that I enjoy, I grind premiums that I enjoy, and I grind credits all day. So I kind of do it just so I never have to worry about buying, or I never run out of money. So it's definitely best to do that for the camos and flags. It's the biggest tip I can give regarding that.
Going off of your credit suggestion, I find that most players at around this time are starting to struggle with credits. Higher tier ships are more expensive, and unless you have premium time and or other modifiers to help your credit gain, you're not going to make as much money at tier 9 or tier 10 as you were at around tier 6 or tier 7. In fact, at tier 10, if you're running without premium time and without proper camo, you're actually expected to lose money. When you get to about tier 8, tier 9, the meta changes again, but hopefully you'll be able to adjust better since you have a reasonably spec'd out captain. So at this point, it just more becomes game knowledge and grinding through ships.
So free XP is the little multiplier that you get per match at the very end. You don't get very much per match, but free XP can be used. So if you go into a tech tree, say you're going down a line, say you're going down the British line and you're right here. You're at tier 7 and you want to get to the Monarch, that's tier 8. So you can literally go to right here, click on here, go to equipment. So you can see that on the ship right now, I have 95,000 XP, but I need 135,000 XP to get the Monarch, which is the next in the line. So since I have free XP, I can use my free XP if I wanted to make it where I can research the Monarch. So saving up your free XP is good to be able to do that, but the biggest tip to use your free XP for is when you're using these modules, because these modules cost a lot of free XP. Like, see, this one costs 23,000 XP, this one costs 15,000, this one costs 52,000. So usually you want to save your free XP for when you're messing with these and not the actual ship, because the ship you'll get along the way as you play the ship.
Basically, we recommend you use the free XP to get past some of the stock grind. Let's go look at Fuso, for example. So Fuso, I believe, right now has 2 hulls, the stock hull and the fully upgraded hulls.
Yes, let me just get there real quick. Okay, let's see. Fuso has has 2 hulls, yes.
And the reason I'm using Bo's favorite ship is because look at the difference between Fuso A and Fuso B hull. You'll notice here that there's a massive HP difference of about 12,000, only about 12,000 HP. Not to mention there's a difference in firing range and difference in propulsion. But the big thing is a stock hull generally puts you at a disadvantage compared to many other ships. In Fuso's case, you're starting off with a lot less HP. For other ships, it can include significantly worse rudder time, usually loss of AA, sometimes even the guns are different. So Since free XP doesn't come by very often until the late stages where you have somewhat methods of grinding it quickly, I would recommend using the free XP to at least get past the stock haul. That way, even if it's a ship you don't like, at least you're playing it at the full strength and not being handicapped. There are a few other ways to help with the grind, but this is starting to get more into paying Wargaming some money to help advancing. Do you want to talk a little bit about premium time? So generally speaking, premium time will increase everything. Will increase credit gain. There we go.
Plus 65% XP per battle, plus 50% credits per battle, and it can be used, the premium one, like if you go back here, you can also get the premium for all 3 of the games, or just 1. So this makes it where for 1 day it's $1, for 90 days it's $30, for a year it's $95. Pretty much they always do sales for these around Christmas and Black Friday usually, so it's usually best to wait because they'll cut these prices down and you can get special deals where it's like half off. Instead of 95, it's like 45, which is better than it is now, but you can still play the game without premium time. You can also earn premium time and whatnot by doing just missions. Usually the reoccurring missions will have, sometimes they'll have some sort of premium time in there. The new dockyard, I know that it has premium time in the actual dockyard event itself, but as you can see, you can earn free XP, commander XP, and like they give out a lot of different rewards for just doing the little things like the campaigns. If you do the Science of Victory and Honorable Service throughout the way, you'll earn credits, free XP, commander XP, and the final 10 one here will give you 7 days of premium. This is all and all these will also give you flags too, so it'll help bolster up your reserves. It's a very, very nice thing that they do, so it helps you out with that. So I'd highly recommend if you're a new player to activate these missions. To activate them, you just click in. You click on any mission here. Of course, you'll start on 1. And then you would click this, and then you would click accept. And it would tell you what the mission is. This one here is hit 200 enemies. Hit enemy ships with main battery shells 200 times in a single battle. So this would be a tier 8 through 10, of course. And this one's the second one, so it's not really meant for new. The Science of Victory, though, is. So these are pretty low tier. This is 4 through 10. You can do this at tier 4. Well, it's pretty easy to do. This one's 3 through 10. This one's 3 through 10. It's something that new players are easily able to do, pick up and get some free stuff from. So I highly recommend doing the campaigns to get some free little goodies as well.
Before we move on, I do want to mention this very important tip about campaigns. So, you need to complete a certain amount of tasks that will grant you stars, and getting enough stars will unlock the final task in which you use to complete that stage. So, if you find that you're stuck on a certain stage, you can repeat tasks in order to grind stars out. So for example, task 3, hit the citadel of a ship 1 time. Let's say you're struggling on the other task. So if you just want to get to the final task and be over with it, just keep doing task 3 over and over. A lot of players actually do not know this, that you can repeat tasks to get extra stars. So if you find yourself stuck on like a Halsey grind or the Yamamoto grind, that is a very useful trick.
Yeah, that's something that I didn't know at first when I first started doing them, but someone had to tell me.
So we did cover a little bit about camouflages and signals and when to use them, but we also didn't mention other ways you can get those. So Wargaming often likes to hand out camo codes, containers on their official streams. So if you go to Twitch and you watch the official World of Warships stream, they will sometimes give out codes to everyone who watches their streams. And for people who like to watch Twitch in general, they can also watch like their favorite streamers or their CCs play the game. Oftentimes they'll have a contest running, and if you get lucky, you can win a code. You'll generally win like a code, probably win some containers, or for special days, you may even win something bigger from the CCs. Bo can go into more detail than I can.
CCs are given a certain number of codes for CC containers, special events, or 10 subscriber skins. The subscriber skins are right here, where they look like this. This is what they look like. They look pretty fancy. I like them. They're pretty cool. They give you 150% XP per battle, plus 50% commander XP, and 100% free XP, plus the detectability range by sea is -3%, and the plus 4% dispersion of the shells fired by enemies attacking your ship. This camo is very nice and helpful for new players, very useful. Each code that I have for those gives 10 of those, so that'll last for 10 battles, so that's usually about half of a day's worth or a day's worth of camo for some players, or even 2 days depending on how many battles you do. There's also containers like the CC containers where they can give you coal, doubloons, tier 8 ships, flags. It can give you a lot of stuff from the CC containers and the special events. It's kind of random on that, but those are just containers for the special event that's going on. But CCs usually give them out each stream, depending upon their size. The bigger the content creator is, the more codes that they're given. Since I have both a YouTube and a Twitch, I'm given codes for both the YouTube and the Twitch, so I have more codes to give out compared to some CCs that only have a Twitch or that only have a YouTube. But since I'm branching, I have multiple, I get rewarded for extra codes, so usually per stream I do 2.
So I think the last thing I want to talk about is containers. So Wargaming will reward up to 3 containers per day depending on how much you play. So they're rewarded with 2,000 EXP, 12,500 EXP, and then 37,000 EXP. So in these containers, they'll offer different rewards depending on which ones you focus on. So you can get extra flags, you can get extra credits, you can get extra resources. So and then you can try your luck for a super container or smaller amount of resources. So Bo, which containers would you recommend for newer players?
For newer players, I would recommend the flags one and the credits one, depending upon your need. Once you start having more of that, you don't have to worry about as much. I would say getting the resources like coal. Probably go over that in detail later on about coal and steel and whatnot. The best ways to grind that, since this video is getting a little bit long. But you can use coal to get yourself your own ships. So you do not even have to use money to buy ships. You can use coal by just playing the game, and you can get yourself some free ships by playing the game. You can get free ships using coal. I got a lot of ships from just using coal. They just released a new tier 10 CV with coal that I find a lot of fun. They've been it's something that they didn't have to do, but they do it anyway. So there's a lot of choices to choose from here. There's a lot of coal ships you can choose from. They got tier 5s, they got tier 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, you name it, they got it for coal. And it's a free resource too, so as long as you keep playing the game and grinding, you'll get the coal over time. So, but yeah, it's very, very useful. It's very nice. And a lot of those ships are really good too. So they're not just a bunch of ships that stink. They're very fun to play and use. So I'm very appreciative of that.
Is there anything else you want to mention, like tips or tricks for a new player grinding?
My best advice I can do is try to play with a friend or a div mate. Divisions in World of Warships can make and break a game, as in if you have a good division on your team, you will win more likely than if there is a bad division on the other one. So if you have a bunch of friends you can play with, or even a streamer that's likely to play, I know that I've been trying and offering to play with my community more to help them with their grind, since I have so many resources and I'm okay-ishly decent at the game. I can pretty much carry matches if I'm not a dum-dum. If I play like I know to play, then I can do just fine, but sometimes I play dum-dum. But I do offer to help out players that are newer, give them advice, and just try to guide them in matches that I play with them. Trying to teach them or tell them what they're doing mistake-wise and stuff like that as I help them grind. It's just a nice little gesture for the support that I get. But if you guys have any questions or concerns, definitely put them down below. Or if you have any suggestions or tips you want to give the new people that may watch this video, please leave them down below. The grind can be kind of tough at times for new players that don't know what they're doing, especially with CVs and stuff, so it's kind of a nice reassuring thing that the community can kind of help out the new players. The little guy that's just starting off, give them some tips and tricks. It'd be greatly appreciated. But yes, thank you so much again, SAT First Score, for your time today, brother. I greatly appreciate it, man. I'll see you guys in the next video and talk to y'all later. Hey guys, this is OverLordBou. Just want to thank y'all for watching today's video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. I love reading your guys' comments. I'll see you guys in the next video. Blah!